Hi everyone, I wanted to give my first impressions of the alpha. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm keep being asked by quite a few people, so I thought I want to take like 5 minutes out, just talk about it. Keep in mind, most, if not all of this can change. But why it's good to look at this now, because it gives you an idea of what Blizzard's trying to do moving forward. Um, Maybe that's hard. Let me make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Alright, so let's go ahead and look over the changes, and then I'll just give you like my basic feedback, if you will. So, Demon Hunter, let's scroll down here, because here has a lot of stuff mixed into it. Consume Magic is now a 10-yard range, so they nerfed our interrupt, which just sucks. I get it, we shouldn't have a 20-yard range, but it was so nice all X back, so that sucks. So our interrupt is a 10-yard range. Soul Carver. This is now a built-in ability. We get this for free. This is good, but there's two changes to it. First is you spawn 3 fragments now. So you spawn 2 instantly and 1 later. So this is nerfed. It was 5, now it's 3. And it was also nerfed because it's a 60-second cooldown instead of 40. So we get it for free, but nerfed in how many souls and nerfed by the cooldown. Glaive throw is fine. Keep in mind, everything had damage nerfs. That's because the stat squishing, so don't even worry about any of this damage nerf. That's just is happening to everybody, so it's not a big deal. Is there anything else in here? Not really. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at talents here. Burning Alive. So every 5 seconds it will spread to somebody else. I don't know if this has been changed otherwise. Whether oh yeah, it was. I'm sorry. Fiery Brand has been increased to a 12-second duration by default instead of an 8 plus 2 from your traits. So this is now a 12-second buff, but that means Fiery Brand's only going to spread twice. If it happens every 5 seconds, it only spreads twice, so that's a small nerf. New talent, Charred Flesh. So we lose Fiery Demise. So if you have 3 runes or 3 relics with Fiery Demise, you have a 70% damage increase on your fire spells right now. That's now been nerfed and is now a talent. So it's now a Charred Flesh, and it gives you a 20% damage increase, not up to 70. So that sort of sucks, but the fact that it's a talent sort of sucks. But we'll look at the talents here in a minute. So what this is trying to do is they're trying to get away from the insane burst on pull. Because with a 70% on burst, we could burst up to like 5 million damage. It's kind of insane. So they're trying to take away our burst damage by doing this. Let's skip a lot of this because it's Havoc. Feast of Souls. Still in the game, unfortunately. Maybe it'd be better. One of the builds will be using Soul Cleave, assuming Spirit Bomb doesn't take over. So it could be more useful, but again, it doesn't say it stacks. So if you cast Soul Cleave twice, I'm assuming it just refreshes it. It doesn't stack, and if that's true, because there's nothing here saying otherwise, it's still not good. Now, if it stacks, it could be decent. Feed the Demon is still in, but this has also been nerfed. So instead of 1 second per soul, it's now 0.5 seconds. This is probably because of the sheer, I guess it's a buff, for instance. Yeah. But this was nerfed. Fell Devastation just had a damage nerf, nothing big here, nothing's changed. Fell Eruption, I don't think exists anymore. I didn't see it in the talents. So Fell Eruption doesn't exist for Vengeance, unless something changes. Fell Blade, just a damage nerf. Fracture, now this is one of the biggest changes. Fracture will now spawn 2 souls like always, but it now generates 25 pain, and it replaces sheer. So if you spec into Fracture, you no longer have sheer. That's a big change. What makes this even more unique is it now has a 4.5 second cooldown, and you can store up to 2 charges. So I'll talk about this in a minute at the end. But this is going to change how you play if you use Fracture. And I don't know if it's a good thing yet, it's too early to tell, but keep in mind, and we'll look at that in a minute. Gluttony, so your, was it Fueled by Pain, those random meta procs that you get, is now a talent. So if you want to keep that, and honestly, I like it, you can now spec into it. But the problem is where this is in the talent tree. I'll look at that when we look at the talents, but where it currently is, I would never take it. Let's keep going down. Razor Spikes was also nerfed. So you still get the 30% physical damage increase, but the snare is only 20% instead of 15%. So that was nerfed. Soul Barrier was here. Looking at this, one thing stands out is it doesn't say anything about the minimum shield. The only reason why Soul Barrier is so good right now, well, in some situations, is because once, say you pop a big shield, they hit you, your shield can only drop to a minimum shield, and everything you take after that, the minimum shield absorbs. This doesn't say it has a minimum shield anymore. So if that's still true, this is not going to be good. You're going to take a last resort the entire time. But we will see if it changes. Soul Rending for tanks. They changed this a little bit because it's not good in the current form. So now, all the time, you get a 5% leech. Even if you're not in meta, you just have 5% leech. And then, when you're in meta, you get an additional 25%. So they tack down this 5% all the time. Could be okay in the right situations, I guess. Alright, so Spirit Bomb was also changed. So let's talk about this. Instead of consuming up to 5 souls, it now consumes only 3. And then you're going to explode doing damage, but it was also nerfed. It's only doing 28% attack power per soul. And why that's important is I'll show you down here. But the heal is now 10% instead of 20%. So you're getting a lot less healing from this. And here's the big change. It costs 30 pain. So this is a pain spender now. Also not listed here, this also replaces Soul Cleave. So if you pick Spirit Bomb, you no longer have Soul Cleave. So you have to pick between either Shear or Fracture and Soul Cleave or Spirit Bomb. And I'll touch on my thoughts on that at the end. And let's look down here. So Demon Spikes was changed. Instead of giving damage reduction, or physical damage reduction, it just gives you armor. Based on your agility, I'm guessing is that's supposed to say. And the parry chance was nerfed by 5%. So we parry for 15 instead of 20. But here's a buff. This costs no pain, which is great, and here's why. There's so many times I don't use Demon Spikes, especially in like Mythic Plus or other places, because I don't really need it, and it costs pain, which hurts my damage. Now, if this stays like this, I'll use Demon Spikes all the time, because there's no reason not to. If it costs nothing, you're still going to have your 2 charges, but if it costs nothing, I'm just going to use it because it's off the global. So that's a nice change, if it stays like this. Demonic Wards, we are now taking 10% damage reduction instead of 20. They give us 20 in Legion because we were still too weak. Everything else stays the same. Immolation's fine. Nothing changes, just damage changes. Leather Specialization, you still get your 5% stamina, plus 25% spell power. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, or if it's even going to change at all. Mastery now gives you bonus armor and attack power. So since Demon Spikes was changed to be an armor, your mastery now gives you armor. Shatter Souls. Let's talk about it here. Okay, this is awesome. This is something that we actually needed. Our souls. When we consume them, they give us health. But now it also heals us for 8% of all damage taken. So it now scales per soul. So right now, when you absorb a soul in Legion, it's always a flat amount regardless. Now it's going to scale with the damage you take. This is awesome. This is needed now in Legion. So that's a huge buff. And his minimum is 1% of maximum HP. So this is a great change. Now Shear was changed. Now Shear generates 10 pain. I don't know where it says it. It says it here somewhere. So it generates 10 pain, and it always guarantees a soul. So right now there's some crazy formula to get a soul with Shear. Now it's guaranteed to happen every time. So that's a nice buff. Sigil Flame, nothing big there. Soul Cleave. So Soul Cleave hits everything in front of you. So it's, cone attack for 93% weapon damage, but it's physical, and heals you for a flat amount. It will consume up to 3 souls. And it costs 30 pain. So this is a great buff. It's a flat 30 pain. So Soul Barrier, Spirit Bomb is 30 pain. Soul Cleave is 30 pain. So you get to pick which one you want. Now this does 93% weapon damage, but it's physical, so armor is going to mitigate that damage. Whereas the Soul Bomb up here, or Spirit Bomb, it's late, sorry. Spirit Bomb does 28% times 3, so you're looking at under 90% damage. But it's fire, so armor doesn't mitigate it. So we'll see how that plays out. And then they're nerfing all our damage, because they're nerfing everybody's damage. There's nothing big there. So those are the changes, but let's look at the talent calculator, and then I'll give you a brief rundown of what I think. So Abyssal Strike doesn't change, Agonizing Flames doesn't change, and Razor Spikes is the 20% snare. Feast of Souls, Fallout, and Burning Alive, so nothing changes here. But right here we have Flame Crash, Charred Flesh, and Fellblade. So looking at this tier, this tells me I'm going to use Flame Crash for AoE. So Mythic Plus, I'm going to use Flame Crash. Raid bosses with a lot of adds, I'm going to use Flame Crash. Now, on single target fights, I'm probably going to use Charred Flesh. Now, this is assuming the numbers hold out. The math and theory crafting has to be done once the game comes out, or the XSpec comes out. But just how this is set up, this is telling me Charred Flesh single target, Flame Crash AoE, Fellblade, unfortunately, if nothing changes with it, I'm still not going to take it. It's not going to be as good as these two. So we'll see what happens with Fellblade. 104, Soul Rending for the Demon Fracture. I'll get to this in a minute, but this doesn't change. Concentrated Sigil of Chains, and Quicken, nothing there changes. But here, let's talk about Gluttony. This is your free meta procs, randomly. This is still the 1 proc per minute, which it currently is on live. But look where it's at. They put it on the same tree as Fell Devastation and Spirit Bomb. These both are going to be a DPS upgrade, whereas Gluttony is a random survival ability. Because Gluttony is on 108, I'm never going to take it over Fell Dev or Spirit Bomb. It's just not going to happen. What they need to do is move Gluttony and replace Feast of Souls, get rid of Feast of Souls, because, yeah, that's not keep it. So move that up here, get rid of that, and put something else that is a damage increase down here. So we should be able to pick between 3 abilities that increases our damage. And then last row, last result, Soul Bearer, and something that we've never seen yet. So, yeah, those are the talents. My initial thoughts, and please, again, this is alpha, things are going to change. My initial thoughts is they're sort of dumbing the class down just a little bit. Right now, our current rotation would be Shear, Fracture, and Spirit Bomb. Well, if Fracture replaces Shear, we no longer Shear. One concern I do have, is the biggest concern, is if I take Fracture that has a 4.5 second recharge, and we are assuming this will be affected by haste. It's not been proven that it does, but we're assuming it will be. So if we're using Fracture, we no longer have Shear. So the only way we're generating souls is by fracturing and Fallout. If you take Spirit Bomb will replace Soul Cleave. So what that means is, if you have Spirit Bomb, you no longer have Soul Cleave. So the only way you can actually spend your pain is by using Spirit Bomb. But what if you have Fracture as well, and you have no souls up, and you're taking damage? So you're getting pounded by the boss, you have a full rage bar, or pain bar. Fracture's on cooldown because it has a cooldown now. And you have no souls out. You have no way of spending your pain at all. So what I'm seeing, just if I'm looking at this, if I'm guessing properly here, I could see Spirit Bomb being better for Mythic Plus because of Fallout. You have more ads, so you're spawning more souls from Fallout. And the fact that Spirit Bomb scales with targets hit. So the more targets you hit, the better off it's going to be. Whereas Soul Cleave is a flat heal, regardless. So Spirit Bomb, I could see Spirit Bomb being better for Mythic Plus, and Soul Cleave being better for raids, because when you're taking all that boss damage, you're going to have a lot of pain, and if you can't spend it because you're out of souls, then you just sit there, you can't do anything. So as of right now, just based on what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, I would think Fracture would be good, especially if you stack some haste. Assuming it's affected by haste, it's all, guesswork here. And Soul Cleave for raids. And then do Fracture and Spirit Bomb for Mythic Plus. Now it really depends on if Fracture is not affected by haste, then Shear might actually be better. But I want to point out one thing. Shear generates 10 pain, Fracture generates 25. So in the same global cooldown, you're generating 2.5% more pain using Fracture. And 1 extra soul using Fracture. So in the same GCD, you get 1 extra soul and 15 extra pain. So Fracture seems to be good, assuming it's affected by haste. That's really it. There's no reason to panic, no reason to get worried yet. Let's see what Alpha brings, let's see what Beta brings, and we'll keep going from there. But still looking to be the same class we've been playing, which is a good thing. Some changes that were needed, which is a good thing. So I'm kind of excited. So let's see how this plays out. If you have any comments, if you think I looked at something wrong, you want to discuss something, please leave your comments. Well, leave a comment. Thank you for watching.